2h minus 4. There are no like terms, so that's your big long answer. Yay go you. Alright, here's another problem that is exactly like that last one, except for I give you a different function. This function actually has a division symbol there, so we got 2x plus 1 divided by 3x minus 5. So we're going to do the exact same thing that we did in the last problem. So I'm just going to kind of breeze through this one, and I'm not going to do too much detail. So if you have questions about answers that I might come up with, please come and ask me. So if I plug in 0 for x, I would get negative 1/5. If I plug in 1 for x, I would get negative 3 over 2. If I plug in negative 1 for x, I would get 1/8. If I would plug in a negative x, I would get negative 2x plus 1 divided by negative 3x minus 5. If I multiply the whole thing by a negative 1, I either pick the top to multiply by a negative 1 or the bottom. Because if you multiply both of them by a negative 1, you're multiplying by negative 1 over negative 1, which is 1, not negative 1. So we multiply the top and get negative 2x minus 1 over 3x minus 5. For the next part, we're going to put in x plus 1. So on top, I get 2x plus 3. On the bottom, I get 3x minus 2. If I plug in 2x, I get 4x plus 1 and 6x minus 5. If I plug in x plus h, I get 2x plus 2h plus 1 over 3x plus 3h minus 5. Yay, go, yay. Alright, so now we're going to find the domain. We did a lot of this in World of Functions. You also did this at the beginning of this semester in the chapter R chapter. So if we look for the domain, this is when we're looking when the bottom is bad. So for our fraction, for the bottom to be bad, x would have to be 4. Because 4 squared minus 16 is 0, and you cannot divide by 0. So 4 is a bad number, and negative 4 squared is 16 minus 16 is also a bad number. So you find your bad numbers and then you write your notation. Some of us struggle with the notation, so please come with questions next time. We want to figure it out. So we got negative infinity to negative 4. We don't want to include the negative 4, so we put a parenthesis. Then we go from negative 4 to 4, and then we go from 4 to infinity. You've done this? You got it? You're good. Yay, go you. So now we've got negative 5x plus 4. There's no denominator. It's just a normal everyday equation. Nothing can make it bad. If there's no denominator and there's no square root or anything weird like that, everything is good. So we're going to say negative infinity to infinity. Yay, go you. Alright, so now this one wants us to add f and g, subtract f and g, multiply them, and divide them. So if we add these two equations together, add like terms. That's all you have to do. So 3x plus 2x is 5x. 4 plus negative 3 is 1. And you're done. So now let's subtract them. So we're going to subtract f from g. So 3, not f from g, g from f. I guess I should say that. So 3 minus 2x is 1x. 4 minus negative 3. This is where it will kill people because you will not watch your negatives and positives. 4 minus negative 3 is a positive 7. Watch that. So now we're going to multiply the two. And when we multiply the two, guess what you get to do? Area models. My sophomores hate me right now because I am making them do a million area models. Was it your class that I made do 100 one day? Sorry if it was. So here we go. We've got 2x times 3x, that's 6x squared. 2x times 4 is 8x. 3x times negative 4 is negative 12x. Negative 4 times 4 is negative 16. Look what you got. 6x squared negative 4x minus 16. Yay, go you. Then we're going to divide. So we got f divided by g. This is the easiest one, just saying. You go 3x plus 4 over 2x minus 3, and you're done. You don't have to do anything there. Okay, so if we go back through, it says state the domain of each of them. So I'm going to go back through and I'm going to say my domain. Here we had 5x plus 1. There's no fraction. Nothing weird's happening. So negative infinity to infinity. Here we got x plus 7. No fraction. Nothing weird's happening. So negative infinity to infinity. Here, you got 6x squared minus 4x minus 16. It jumped from just being an x to an x squared, but still, nothing weird is happening with no fraction, so you got negative infinity to infinity. Here, we do have a fraction. So what makes the denominator 0? You should say 3 over 2 is our bad number. So we're going to go from negative infinity to 3 over 2, and 3 over 2 to infinity. Yay, go you. And you finished those type of problems. There's one more example, so if you want to stop the video, you can, or if you want to just finish it out, this one's a little bit different because it has a square root, but that's up to you. So if we add the two equations, they don't have anything in common. So basically, you just write the equations with a plus sign in between them. And there is f plus g. For subtraction, you do the same, except for you put a subtraction symbol. So it changes to a negative 3x and a positive 5 when you subtract. When you multiply, you just say the square root of x times 3x minus 5. You can distribute, but you don't have to on this one since you have the crazy square root. For division, you just write them on top of each other. So the square root of x over 3x minus 5. Alright, so let's go back and let's write our domain. So for this one, we got the square root of x plus 3x minus 5. It's not normal. It has that stupid square root in there. What do we know about square roots? You should say you can't take the square root of a negative. So we know that this underneath here cannot be a negative value. So that means that this has to be greater than 0. So for this one, we're going to say 0 to infinity. The reason is I can't put in negative 1, I can't put in negative 2, I can't put in negative half, I can't put in any of those values. The first value that I can plug in there is 0. Yes, you can take the square root of 0. So that's why I put a bracket on it, because you can put 0 in there. So for f minus g, it's very similar, and so you get the same answer, 0 to infinity. For the multiplication, same thing, 0 to infinity. Division, you get that same thing, that it has to be from 0 to infinity because of the top. Yes, I know with fractions all we worry about is the denominator, but you still, if it's in the numerator, can I do the square root of negative 1? No. So you still have to include it in your answer. Then look at the bottom and what makes the bottom 0, and that is 5/3. So we need to go from negative infinity to 5/3 is normally how you write it, but we aren't going from negative infinity. We're starting at 0, correct? So I'm going to go 0 to 5/3, and we are going to include 0, but we aren't going to include the 5/3. And then we're going to pick up on the other side of 5/3, and we're going to go on to infinity. So basically, here was my original start, and I added that 5/3 in there saying that you can't include that in your thing. So you kind of have to put them together. If I would have finished this one out, that's what it would have looked like. But can't have negatives, so that's why we have to put this and combine it with that. So, questions come with for next time. We want to do awesome on this, so hopefully you did awesome on your test, and you will be in a great mood when it comes time to working these types of problems. Have a great weekend. Or I hope you had a great weekend, because by the time you're watching this, it's probably Sunday night, and hope you had a great weekend.